back in 1999-2000, I was doing a lot of things, but a large part of me was engrossed in translating Tagore's short stories. Now, many of these came out in a collected form in the Oxford Tagore series, Volume 3, much of which consists of my contributions. So these are all translated into English. I'm going to read out more than one of those translations here, stories written in different moods and belonging to different genres. The first one is called The Rat's Feast. In Bengali, it was titled Idurer Bhoj. "It's an outrage," said the boys. "We shan't study under a new teacher." They were going to have a new Sanskrit teacher, Kali Kumar Torkalankar by name. The vacation was over and the boys were on the train going back to school. A wag had already changed the new teacher's name into Kalo Kumlo Tatka Lonka, black pumpkin and red hot chili, and made up a rhyme called The Sacrifice of the Black Pumpkin. They were belting it out in chorus. At Arkola, an elderly gentleman boarded the train. He had a bedroll with him, a few bundles, a big trunk, and 2 or 3 large earthen pots, their tops bound with cloth. A tough boy, whom everyone called Bichkun, yelled at him at once. "Get down, you old fool! There's no room here. Go to another carriage." The old man said, "The whole train's packed. There isn't a seat to be found anywhere. Don't worry, I'll sit in a corner here. I won't trouble you at all." He left the whole seat to them, rolled out his bedding on the floor, and settled down on it. Then he turned to them and asked, "Where are you going, my sons, and for what?" "To settle somebody's hash for him," said Bichkun. "And who might he be?" asked the old man. "Kalo Kumro Tatka Lonka," came the reply, and the boys merrily took up the chant. Black pumpkin and red hot chili, we'll soon make him look pretty silly." At Asansol, the train stopped for a while, and the old man got down to have a wash. The moment he came back, Bichkun shouted, "Get off this coach if you know what's good for you, mister." "Why, what's the matter?" "There are rats all over the place." "Rats? You don't say so. Look for yourself. See what they have done to your pots over there." The old gentleman saw that all the sugar balls in one pot were gone, and not a morsel was left of the sweets in another. "They have run off with whatever you had in that bundle of yours too," said Bichkun. The bundle had held 5 ripe mangoes from his garden. "Poor creatures," he said with a smile. "They must have been very hungry." "Oh no, they are always like that," Bichkun told him. "Even if they are not hungry, they'll tuck in all the same." The boys roared with laughter. "That's right, mister. If there had been anything more, they would have eaten that too." "It's my fault," said the man. "If I had known there would be all these rats on the train, I would have come better stocked." The boys felt rather disappointed when they saw the old man wasn't angry. They would have enjoyed seeing him lose his temper. At Bardhaman, there was an hour's wait. They had to change trains. The gentleman said, "I won't trouble you young men anymore. I can find a seat in another coach this time." "Oh no, you must come with us," they clamored. "If there's anything left in your bundles, we'll guard it all the way. We promise you, you won't lose anything else." "Very well," said the gentleman. "You go ahead and board the train. I'll be along in a minute." They climbed into the new train. A little later, a sweet seller came trundling his cart to their window, the gentleman beside him. He handed each of them a paper bag full of sweets, saying, "This time the rats won't go hungry." The boys gave a hurrah. Next, a mango seller came along with his basket, and mangoes were added to the feast. The boys asked the gentleman, "Tell us where you are going and why." "I'm looking for a job," he told them. "I'll go wherever I can find one." "What sort of work can you do?" they asked. "I'm a school teacher," he said. "I teach Sanskrit." They clapped their hands. "Then you must come to teach in our school." "But why should they have me?" "We'll make them," they assured him. "We shan't let Kalo Kumlo Tatka Lonka set foot in the neighborhood. You'll see." "You are making things difficult for me. Suppose your secretary doesn't like me?" "You'd better, else we'll all quit the school together." "Very well then, my sons, take me to your school." The train puffed into the station. The secretary of the school committee was waiting in person on the platform. Seeing the old gentleman get off, he came up to meet him. "Welcome, Master Torkalanka, sir. Your rooms are ready for you." And he bent down to touch the old man's feet. That was the first of the stories. Here's the second one. The granddaughter chatting up her grandfather. It's called More Than True. In Bengali, it was Aro Shotti. Grandpa, that more than truth you were talking about the other day, is it to be found only in fairyland? Not at all, my dear. There's a lot of it in this world of ours. You only need to look, but of course you must have the eye to spot it. Can you see it? That's one power I do have. I suddenly catch sight of things that aren't meant to be seen. When you sit by my side learning your geography, I remember my own studies. That Yangtze-Kiang river of yours, every time I read the name, it conjured up a kind of geography that was absolutely no use in passing exams. Even now I can see that long caravan with its enormous loads of silk. I once found a place on the back of one of those camels. Oh, come off it, Grandpa. I know you never rode a camel in your life. Really, Didi, you ask too many questions. Never mind, go on. What happened then? Where did you get a camel from? There, another question already. I never worry about finding camels. I simply climb onto one. Whether or not I visit other lands, nothing stops me from traveling. That's the way I am. Well, what happened after that? After that, I passed through so many grand cities one by one. Fuchung, Hangzhou, Chungkung. I crossed so many deserts, finding my way at night by the stars. And then I came upon the jungle at the foot of the Ushkush mountains. Past olive groves, through vineyards, along pine forests. I fell among thieves, and a great white bear rose on its hind legs in front of me. When did you find the time to wander like that? Oh, I travelled while the class was busy with their exams. But how did you pass the exam then? That's easy. I never did pass. All right, get on with the story. Now, shortly before I set out on that journey, I had read in the Arabian Nights about the beautiful princess of China. And wonder of wonders, I chanced upon her in my travels. It was on the bank of the Fuchao River. The landing place was paved in marble, leading up to a pavilion of blue stone. There was a champak tree on each side with a stone lion at its foot. Incense burned in gold censers, and the smoke rose in coils. One maid was doing up the princess's hair, while two others fanned her, one with a yak's tail. I somehow appeared before her all of a sudden. She was feeding her milk-white peacock with pomegranate seeds. She gave a start and asked, "Who are you?" I remembered in a flash. I was the Crown Prince of Bengal. How could that be? You were only... Questions again. I'm telling you, I was the Crown Prince of Bengal for that day, and that's what saved me. Otherwise, she would have had me thrown out there and then. Instead, she gave me tea in a golden cup, tea laced with chrysanthemums bearing the most marvelous scent. Did she marry you after all that? Now that's something very secret. Nobody knows to this day. Kushmi clapped her hands. It happened. I know it happened. You married the princess in the very grandest way. Plainly, she would be very upset if it didn't work out like that. Yes, in the end, she married me all right. I got my Princess Angchani and half the kingdom of Hangzhou as well. And then what? Did you set off on your camel again? Else how did I come back to be your grandpa? Yes, I climbed back onto my camel, the camel that went nowhere. The Fusung bird flew caroling over my head. The Fusung bird? Where does it live? Oh, it lives nowhere, but its tail feathers are blue, its wings yellow, and there's a brown patch on its shoulders. They flew off in great numbers and perched on the hachang tree. I have never heard of the hachang tree. Nor have I. I only just thought of it as I was telling you the story. That's the sort of person I am. I'm never ready beforehand. I tell you whatever I see, even as I'm seeing it. Today my Fusung bird has flown across the sea. I haven't had news of it for ages. But what about your marriage and the princess? I won't answer you there, my dear, so you'd better stop asking. And anyway, you mustn't let it upset you. You weren't even born then, remember? And here's the last one, of a very different sort. It's titled Destruction. In Bengali, it was Dhongsho. The grandfather is still talking to the granddaughter. Let me give you some fresh news of the world, my dear. There was this little cottage a few miles from Paris, and Pierre Chopin was its master. It was his life's passion to create new plants, matching strains, crossing pollen grains, fusing taste, color, and appearance. It was slow work. It took years to change the nature of a single flower or fruit. But his patience was matched only by his joy in his work. He seemed to work magic in that garden of his. Red turned to blue and white to crimson. Stones vanished from fruits, as did their rinds. Fruits that took 6 months to grow began to do so in 2. He was a poor man with no head for business. He would give away costly plants to anyone who uttered a word of praise. Anyone who wanted to cheat him had only to come and say, "What lovely flowers you have on that tree there. People are coming from everywhere to see them. They're all amazed." He always forgot to ask them to pay. There was another great love in his life, and that was his daughter Camille. She was the joy of his nights and days, and his fellow worker as well. He had trained her to master the gardener's art. She could graft one plant on another no less skillfully than her father. She would not let him hire a gardener. With her own hand she dug the earth, sowed the seeds, weeded the beds, working quite as hard as her father. Besides all this, she cooked for her father, did the sewing, answered his letters, in fact, looked after everything. Their little cottage under the chestnut tree was sweet with peace and hard work. The neighbors who came to tea in the garden would remark upon it. Father and daughter only smiled and said, "Our home is beyond price. It isn't made with a king's treasure, but with the love of two souls. You won't find another one like it anywhere." Jacques, the young man Camille was to marry, sometimes came to lend a hand with the work. He would whisper in her ear, "When will it be?" But she kept putting it off, for she couldn't bear to marry and part from her father. Then France went to war with Germany. The laws of the state were harsh and unbending. Even old Pierre was dragged off to the front. Camille hid her tears and told him, "Don't worry, father, I'll look after our garden with my life." She had been trying to create a yellow variety of tuberose at the time. Her father had said it couldn't be done, but she insisted it could. She resolved to astonish him with it when he came back from the war, if she could make good her claim. Meanwhile, Jacques came home from the front on 2 days' leave to tell her that Pierre had been made a commandant. He had been unable to come himself, so he had sent Jacques with the good news. Jacques arrived to find that a shell had landed in the flower garden that very morning. The garden had been destroyed, along with the person who had guarded it with her life. That was the only mercy. Camille too was dead. Everyone marveled at the advance of civilization. That shell had swept across the sky for all of 25 miles. Such was the progress of the times. The might of civilization has been proved elsewhere too. The proof lies in the dust and nowhere else. It happened in China. That nation had to battle with two powerful civilized states. There used to be a splendid palace in Beijing. It was full of enchanting works of art gathered over the ages. Such wonders had never been worked by human hand before and never will be again. But China lost the war. It was bound to lose, for civilization is marvelously skilled in the arts of destruction. But alas for all that wonderful art, the loving labors of generations of master spirits. It disappeared who knows where amidst the short-lived scratching and biting of civilization. I once went traveling to Beijing and saw it with my own eyes. I can hardly bear to talk about it. Rereading this story reminds me again and again of Gandhi's terrific put-down when a Western journalist asked him, "What do you think of Western civilization?" He retorted, "It would be a good idea." So that's my Rabindranath.